Hey everyone, it's Dr. Law. Earlier this week, I left a brief message about multisensory closings for sessions and thought I'd also just add to it an actual example of one that I use with clients. This one is based on a theory. You'll have to, if you want to interested in it, you'll have to look it up. A theory called ego state theory or ego state therapy, and there's other offshoots of it. And the idea is that a person's personality is made up of different parts. And I'm not talking about like alters with dissociative identity disorder. I'm talking about the different roles a person plays. And so I'm going to actually demonstrate how I would show this to a client as well as the reason for it and how we would use it in treatment. So I'll treat it as if I am staring at a client right now. Your name is John. So John, today I have kind of a visual representation of what I've understood when it comes to things that you're struggling with. I know you've come in here because of some anxieties, some traumas that you experienced in the past that seem to be creeping up at this point. And so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we can approach this and look at it. And so, piece of paper and pen. First and foremost, when it comes to our personalities and how they are built up, this particular method I'm teaching you and want to show you actually is a way to demonstrate that our personalities are made up of different parts, and each part or role has a specific job. And so, I just kind of drew a circle. Looks a little bit like a really bad soccer ball drawing. So first and foremost, you, John, and my handwriting is horrible, are an individual. And you've described to me other things that you have in life. You said you're married, and so you have a spouse. Put that right here. You are a spouse yourself, a husband. You said you have 2 kids, so you are a dad. You said you came from a family with 3 siblings, so you are a brother. Put that one in there. Your parents, mom and dad, still together. Put in here son. You said you have friends. And then you have this final one we're going to say is kind of your professional. That's the part of you that goes to work every day. So again, it looks a little bit something like this. Okay? Now, the interesting thing about each one of these roles, and if you think about it, in each one of these roles, you are still the same person, but you do think, act, feel slightly different than you do in the next role. For example, as a spouse, as a husband, you behave and think and feel in a different way than you do as a professional, or as a friend, or as a son, a brother, or a dad. And that's absolutely normal. Each one of these, we develop these roles according to what our life requires of us. And with each one of these, that role development continues throughout our lifetime. So this development never stops. To make it even more interesting, we could split it even further. So you said you're a dad of 2 kids. We could cut that in 2. You're dad to the first one and the second one, because you do act differently a little bit with each kid. A brother, you said you had 3 siblings. We cut that into 3 pieces. A son, 2 pieces. Friends, all the different friends you have, and professional. And again, this is normal and natural development where we all change slightly to fit an environment, to fit a job, to fit a role or something. And as that occurs, again, we're just growing and developing. Now, the stuff that you've talked about, that you came in here for, these anxieties you have, we'll start with that. Much of them, and you can correct me, please, if I'm wrong, come into play in the professional part. You've talked to me about several incidents where you've had panic attacks or other anxiety issues at work, and it's affecting your work. And then you come home and it affects that. But ultimately, that is the part that is experiencing the stress and the anxiety that you feel is no longer in control. You've also mentioned that in the past, there was some bullying when you were a kid and that you feel has affected you. We'd actually fit that up in the friends or the social aspect of you. So that is because it wasn't all your friends, I'd say it was just a little piece of it. So you see, we're just going to represent it like that. So now what I want to look at, I'm going to ask you this. How much of you directly, how many of your roles were directly affected? It's just these two right here. So the parts that we're going to be working on, the friend part and the professional part. You have all these other roles where you've described things where life is actually pretty good. Between you and your spouse, everything's good. You as a dad, you feel very comfortable and you feel like that is a great place to be with your siblings and your parents. But there's these small pieces. So when we work on this friend or this social aspect or this professional aspect, we're going to treat them almost as if they are a separate piece of you. And there's lots of different ways we'll do that. There's many different methods that we can jump into to see what's going to work best for you. So I'd love to see what are your thoughts on this diagram or on this way to conceptualize. So that exercise is something that you're not going to find in a book. That's something that I came up with a few years ago. I call that exercise the pieces of me exercise. And once you're done doing that actual multisensory exercise, you can go into further exercises as well. I've used Gestalt style therapy with it. I've used deep relaxation with it, where they can try to almost pretend as if they are talking to the professional part or defining what that professional part looks like, and then working on those aspects. Again, it's just one activity, and it can lead to many, many more. If you guys ever have questions about this, I'd love to hear about them. Again, this is just one small multisensory activity, and I hope you guys all have an excellent week.